Hello there, I'm Kafi Khan and welcome back to my Android tutorials. In the previous video, we talked about list view and we implemented array adapters. If you haven't watched the video, please watch it. In today's video, we'll be seeing the shortcomings of array adapter and how to overcome that. Well, the problem with array adapter is not always will our data be a list of strings. It could be a list of objects. Well, array adapter won't support it. So the solution is very simple. We create our own custom adapter. So let's get started. We're gonna use the same project which we used in the previous video. Why? So that we can compare array adapter and our custom adapter. So let's create a new class. Let's call it custom adapter. So project Java or directory, right click, new and Java class. So let's call it custom adapter. Okay. Well, if you can remember, array adapter was a subclass of base adapter. So let's create our custom adapter also a class of base adapter, a subclass of base adapter. Okay. So it says implement abstract method get count. So let's implement that. So get count. Abstract method get view. So let's implement that. It says implement abstract method get item ID. So let's implement that. And again it says implement abstract method get item. So let's implement that. So why I was seeing these error again and again? Just to tell you that you don't have to mug up what all functions you need to override. It gives you error and you don't have to mug it up. You just say it and you implement it. Simple as that. So let's create a constructor for our class. So public custom adapter. Let's give it context and array list of say Android version. Okay, so let's call it version array list. And we haven't defined this model, so let's define that. Let's create another class. Let's call it Android version. Okay. So let's create the model. So let our model have two fields, an Android version number and Android version name. So let's define those. Private double say version number and similarly version name. So private string version name. Let's define the getter and setter. So alt enter getter setter. Okay, our model is ready. So coming back to custom adapters, let's define the member variables. So private context, similarly for array list, Android version. So version array list. Let's initialize these in the constructor. So this dot context is equal to context. Similarly for array list, this dot version array list is equal to version array list. Well, so now let's configure these abstract functions. This getCount function, it returns the number of items in the array we've passed to be populated. So let's do that. So let's check if it's not empty. So if version array list not equal to null and version array list dot size is greater than 0, then return version array list dot size, else return 0. Similarly for get item ID, let me rename this variable, its position, just to be more clear. So item ID is just return the position. So return position. Similarly for get item, it returns your array item at the position. So again, let's just rename this to position. So return version array list get at position. So this would return the item at the position. Now let's configure this get view. So let's check if the view is recyclable. So if view is equal to null, then view is equal to layout inflator. So what layout inflator does is it takes your XML file and converts that into a view. Don't confuse it with find view by ID. What find view by ID does is it takes your ID and returns the reference of your view. It doesn't create a new view for you. But layout inflator, it takes the XML file and converts that into a view. So for our list item, we'll be needing an XML file, a layout file. So let's design that. So project, resources, layout, right click, new, and layout resource file. So let's call it version list item. Let's come to the text part. Okay, let's get rid of this constraint layout. Let's provide the orientation, say vertical, and let's design two text view. So text view with match parent, height wrap content. Let's give it an ID, say TV, version name. Similarly, let's define another text view for version number. So let's call it num, and we've created two text view. So our layout is ready. So coming back to the adapter. Okay, so layout inflator, it takes the context. So for that we've got a function from. Let's pass the context, and okay, so we've got another function inflate. So here it takes three parameters. First, it takes the layout file which we want a view item to look like. Second, a view group, and third, a boolean value to tell if we want to attach a view in that view group or not. So let's do that. So r.layout.version list item, we just created that layout, and our view group, let's just pass the view group, and we don't want to attach it. So if we say true, it attaches our view in the view group. If we set it false, it just returns a view item as a view, or it just returns this XML file as a view. Okay, so here let's just return the view. Well, our view is ready. So let's just set the values here. We would want to set the values from Arraylist to our view items. So let's do that. So again, we're gonna need a reference of these two text view in our adapter. So let's do that. So text view, let's call it txt version number is equal to view dot find view by id r.id, say tv version number. Similarly for version name, text view txt version name is equal to view dot find view by id r.id and tv version name. So you must be wondering, what is this view dot find view by id? So when we use find view by id in activities, we just call it directly. So here this is just a class, and we want to find view by id in our view. So that's why view dot find view by id. Okay, so we've declared and initialized the reference to our view items. So let's set the values now. So txt version number, set text. So for that, Arraylist version Arraylist dot get at I is the position. So get version number, and let's call it version. Similarly for name, txt version name dot set text. Again, version Arraylist, get at I, and get version name. So all done here. Our adapter is ready. So coming back to our activity file, custom adapter, let's call it adapter is equal to new custom adapter. It needs two parameters, the context and the Arraylist of type Android versions to be populated. So let's pass the context, which is this, and let's create some dummy data. So for that, let's create this function private, not void. It is going to return an array list of Android version. So get Android versions. Okay, let's create some dummy models here. So Android version, let's call it version is equal to new Android version. Let's give the value. So version dot set version number. So let's call it 4.1, and the version name, set version name. Let's call it ice cream sandwich. Similarly, let's define more. So let's call it version 1. And let's make it 4.2, and let's call it jelly bean. Similarly, let's make this version 2. Let's call it 4.4 Kit Kat. Similarly, let's make this 3, and let's call it 5.0. Let's call it lollipop. Let's call this one 4. And let the version number be 6.0. And let's call it marshmallow. Similarly, let's call this 5. Let's call this 7.0, and the version name nougat. Okay, our versions are ready. So let's create an array list of type Android version. So array list type Android version. So version array list is equal to new array list. Let's just add these version objects here. So version array list dot add version. So let's pass all here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, and just return this array list. There's some error here, so let's see what's that. Yeah, so we just gotta pass this returned array list to our adapter. So get Android versions, and let's just set this adapter to the list view. So list view dot set adapter and adapter. Well, everything's done. Let's run the application and see what happens. Well, our application is building, so let's wait. Well, our application is running, and this is how it looks. Let's add more items to make it scrollable. Okay, so coming back. Okay, let's run it again. Well, now as you can see, it's scrollable, but it doesn't look very clean. It's like everything's very close, and so let's make it a more good looking. So coming to our layout item file, let's add some padding. Let it be so 10 dp. So I'm coming to the main.xml and giving some margin, say 10 dp. Let's run it again. Well, now it looks so much cleaner. We've got padding and margin. Well, what if when a user clicks on one item, it shows clicked and whatever is the version name? So let's try that. Let's add an ID here. Coming to the list item.xml, let's add an ID to this linear layout. So let's call it main layout. Coming back to the adapter, Here, let's define a linear layout. Say main layout is equal to view dot find view by id dot id and main layout. Okay, let's see. Let's just copy paste it here. Okay, it probably needs a syncing of Gradle, so we'll run it directly. Okay, so let's just add an on-click listener to our item. So main layout dot set on-click listener new on-click listener. So let's define a toast here. Toast dot make text. Let's pass the context. Let's pass the message, which is clicked, and whatever is the version name. So for that, version Arraylist get at I and get version name, duration, length short, and show. Let's make this I final because we are using it in inner class. Okay, so we're done. Let's run the application again. Well, our application is running. Let's see. It shows clicked ice cream sandwich. So let's click on marshmallow now. It says clicked marshmallow. Let's click on lollipop. So clicked lollipop. Well, that's all for custom adapters. If you have any doubts, any queries so far, feel free to drop a comment and we'll go through it. See you in the next video.